What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MakeTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Y2K, the year, the craze, the millennium, what it was. I'm just going to dive right into it because I was alive then, and I remember the great "Will the Millennium Bug hit?" that we were all so worried about. And Kyle Mooney made a movie about it. So click like and subscribe and let's dive right into it. It does have audio description because it's an A24 movie and they're usually pretty good about that. And it's got a lot of its cast members are not super well known. Like the supporting cast is actually a little bit more well known than the lead cast. Alicia Silverstone, Tim Heidecker. But the lead cast is sort of Jaden Bartell and Rachel Zegler, which explains a lot about, like, I looked on IMDb as I quite do, especially to look at cast lists, and saw that rating, and I was like, what on earth? This is not that low of a movie. But then there's the Rachel Zegler effect, and I think honestly, Snow White's in trouble because fanboys hate Rachel Zegler. She has such a negative impact online right now. And I think she's a lovely actress who just doesn't need social media. That would be, I think that could be said of her and a couple of other people, men too. I've said this before in some other reviews. Every time I bring up somebody who happens to be, I'm like, I think Armie Hammer could have benefited if somebody had taken away his social media. Anyway, so Rachel Zegler is not even the lead of this, but people seem to hate the movie, and they hate the movie more than Kyle Mooney. Like, I would think that would be the draw here. That was the draw for me, was that this was a Kyle Mooney movie. And if you've ever seen anything that he's done outside of Saturday Night Live, he has a very distinct way of looking at things, and his humor is very specific. And it's not always for everybody. He had Saturday Morning All-Stars on Netflix, which I think was too weird for some people and didn't go for more than one season, which is so weird because it feels like the kind of thing that would have lasted on Adult Swim for like 10 seasons. You know, he definitely feels like he's been heavily influenced by Tim and Eric, which is why the fact that Tim Heidecker's here makes so much sense because he feels so heavily influenced by that brand of comedy. And he just kind of mainstreamed it a little bit here. It's a little bit more widely accessible, but it has a lot of really goofy moments in it. This movie is really silly. It is, but it's also what a lot of people have been saying about Dee Dee is that are younger than me feel like that represented their childhood. Well, that represented, yeah, for people who are like 10 years younger than me, who came up during that period, that felt like their life. This felt like mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember these kids are in high school in 1999. I was in high school in 1999. So for me, this was a flashback to a time when, you know, a lot of these 25th anniversaries that I've been doing recently I've done a lot of my favorite teen movies from 1999, you know, American Pie, Cruel Intentions, She's All That, Never Been Kissed. So, part of those anniversary releases are also, I mean, those are all 1999 movies. Kyle Mooney made a movie that feels like it could have been, you know, I mean, like, the characters feel like they came from that time period. I mean, obviously it's reflective because he's parodying the Millennium Bug that we were all worried about that was going to infect computers and shut down everything. But I thought the film was well described. There's some violence and some gore that's kind of often hilarious. This is not a horror movie that is played to scare you. It's a horror movie that's played for you to laugh when things happen. So it's a little bit more like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, where yes, some graphic violence is in there, but at the same time, that's movie's never meant to scare anybody. So it's not even one of those movies like Cabin in the Woods where it's like, it's kind of, I mean, there's a little bit in there. It's not all laughs, not all fun and games. Um, so this was just a straight comedy that also has some horror gore in it. Uh, it takes place with a pair of best friends who are setting off to go out to this party with the rest of their school, and it's a New Year's Eve party, and it's 1999, and who knows what's going to happen, and lo and behold, something's going down because the computers do take over, but they take over like everything in a very cartoonishly over the top way. Like things that aren't even connected to the internet started like reacting. Basically every electrical appliance um turns on mankind. So people are attacked by all sorts of things. Like there's a Tamagotchi, which when you if remember a Tamagotchi, it was like basically like on a keychain and it's like attacking people. I'm like, I don't even know how that's physically possible for a Tamagotchi. Like it doesn't have legs, it can't move. You know what I'm saying? Like it's for it to become sentient, you know. I mean, like the Tamagotchi inside the Tamagotchi could become sentient, but I don't know what that thing would do if it was sentient. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't, and it doesn't have enough electrical power to do anything. So, but other things are connected to computers, and basically they can't trust anything. They're even worried about getting in a car. They're like, what if we get in the car and the car drives off the cliff? You know, like they're worried about like everything with technology. But we start off with sort of like a pretty broad high school class, which is quickly reduced in a massacre sequence when the machines awaken for the first time and people are killed by everything from like microwaves to little toys. Um, and a couple of the characters survive so that they can then slowly be killed one by one. In some other sequences, the film just gets more nuts and crazy, and but it feels Kyle Mooney captured this time period. Like there were so many things where I remembered looking at things and he's pulled them. Like Kyle is obviously like, I was around then and this is what I did. And I was like, yeah, I totally did this too. The AOL login and waiting for the dial up and hearing the dial tone and you've got mail. I probably TMI, but they download porn. And that was actually totally how porn was downloaded over dial up, was you slowly waited for the image. That was what people were reduced to, was waiting for the image to like slowly, and there's a scene where they click on an image and they're like, oh, this is gonna be great. And like the anticipation is there because like it's like slowly, cascading downward as it loads in the image. It's weird to think about like where technology is now versus where technology was in 1999 and what we thought was like an advancement in technology. I mean, I guess it sort of technically was. Um, but Rachel Zegler plays this smart kid, this programmer. She's created a game that is so old school. It feels like the kind of game that would have been created in 1999. Yeah, this is a funny movie. The only problem is that Kyle can't sustain it. He has a hard time sustaining the humor the whole time, and he stretches away from his strengths and he starts stretching into, feelings and emotions and depth of character. And I think what his best thing is that he's cuckoo bananas. His best stuff is that his humor often makes little to no sense, but is really funny, and you're not really sure why it's funny. Like when he's at peak Kyle Mooney, it's very goofy. And there's some stuff here that happens that I laughed, so it kept me going throughout the whole movie, but there are reasons why like I wouldn't put this in like as like my favorite film of the year. But I definitely think that the ratings on IMDb are because a whole bunch of people are just going into Rachel Zegler movies and like giving them a 1 vote. Um, I don't think that movie is weighted where it should be at all. I think it's a lie. I call bullshit because this movie is not that at all. I've seen a ton of shitty movies this year. Y2K is not one of them. Y2K is just not a perfect movie. It's a perfectly fine movie that's definitely worth one-time watch. And you should be able to get something out of it. So, especially if you grew up during this time period. Like if you were in high school in 1999 or even middle school, this movie will probably resonate to you. So actors were fine. A lot of them are just kind of playing stereotypes, like the stoner. There's a rapper in there. There's a white rapper with dreads. Love it. The best friend is British, and I was just kind of like, why is he British? But they didn't really ever explain it, and I was like, I guess they just live in an area where Brits move. I just grew up in an area where I didn't have any Brits, so I just thought it was weird. One of the lead characters in this film was going to be a Brit. But it's funny. There's a cameo. Not even a really well-hid cameo because he's pretty close to the front of the IMDb cast list. But there's a cameo of somebody playing themselves. And a lot of references to, like that person being like a great musician. And it feels so 90s to say that because, yes, there were people who believed that back in the day when that band was popular. It's funny how things became cool and not cool, like, really quickly, though. And things, like, fell out of fashion. There's a scene where Jaden is running and he's, like, wearing shoes and he doesn't even know why he's wearing the brand he's wearing or what it even means or stands for. And he says something about, and they're like, they're skate shoes, man. That's, so-and-so's a skater. And I was like, and he's just like, why are they even wearing these? I hate skating. And it sort of encapsulated brands and how in the 90s brands used to be everything. Like you had to wear a shirt that had a brand on it, or your pants, and kids were walking around, especially dudes, with underwear that had like the brand on the label of the boxers, and like wearing their pants like slightly low so you could see that even their underwear was like something, like Calvin Klein or it was like peak branding. So I love the fact that he gets really frustrated with his shoes because he doesn't really like his shoes, but they're, they've been deemed cool. And he's like, what the fuck are these shoes? He's trying to escape and he just hates his shoes. So, it's like Kyle perfectly seemed to remember what this time period was like and put it into a movie. And yes, I would say for sure. This is exactly, Dee Dee's a better movie. It is a better movie. But this is like Dee Dee for people who are like a little bit older than the people who are like really hit with the time period of Dee Dee. So, I don't know, Y2K, like I said, I think Kyle for the most part gets it right. I think the only problem here is, occasionally he tries to stretch himself as a director and directs like emotions into it and feelings and like scenes. Some of the scenes work because he comes at it from another angle, so like you think that he's about to do something and then he goes a completely different direction with it. But there are a couple times in the movie where it kind of drags a little bit because we're in our feelings. And I don't know, I love so many of the jokes though. I love that basically their solution is to like Independence Day it, and they're trying to explain it, but they're in like the porn section of a video store, so they pull out a porn parody to Independence Day, which is like Indepenis Day. They're like this, like Indepenis Day. I don't know. I wish this movie did better, and I wish more people were paying attention to it, because I would love to see more Kyle Mooney movies. Um, and he's definitely a creator that I just, yeah, give more green lights to. He feels like the kind of director too who would work with A24. Like, this doesn't full on feel like an A24 movie, because Kyle feels like he's trying to be a little bit too mainstream, but A24 feels like exactly the kind of place that would allow him to make something like his Saturday Morning All Stars at feature length and put that out into the world for people. I trust yourself, Kyle, and do that. You know, there was such an audience for Tim and Eric for so many years. I think Kyle will find his own audience if he just believes in himself enough to do it. So I'm gonna give Y2K. I'm gonna give it a B plus. A lot of that is the nostalgia really worked on me, so it might be a little bit higher than you think, but it definitely isn't what it is. And Rachel Zegler is not even the lead of the movie, so everybody needs to calm down. It's not even the main character. Jane Martell is. Anyway, that's that. So check out Y2K. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.